If you love emotional Afro-Korean romance stories, you will love this. Make sure you watch till the end. The twist is insane.
Have you found anything yet?
Not yet, the feeds are still clean.
Keep watching, we can't afford to miss it.
The darkness in the villa wasn't just the absence of light. It was a physical weight. The hum of the smart home system had died, replaced by the terrifying, rhythmic crunch of boots stepping over broken glass on the marble floor downstairs. Jae-hoo's hand was a vice around my wrist as he dragged me into the depths of the walk-in closet. I stumbled over a pair of his Oxfords, my breath coming in jagged, shallow hitches. My mind was a kaleidoscope of the document he'd just shown me. My father's name, the red stamp, the secret I had buried under layers of architectural blueprints, and a new life in Seoul was screaming to the surface. "In here, don't make a sound," Jae-hoo hissed. He pressed a sequence on a keypad hidden behind a row of cashmere coats. A segment of the wall slid back with a whisper of hydraulics, revealing a room no larger than a walk-in freezer, lined with monitors and emergency supplies. He shoved me inside and stepped in after me, the heavy steel door sealing us into a tomb of silence. The emergency lights flickered on, a dim, sickly red that made Jae-hoo's face look like it was carved from stone. He didn't look at me. He turned to the bank of monitors. Most were black due to the power cut, but a few, powered by an independent battery, flickered to life. "Who are they?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "The police don't break windows, Jae-hoo." "They aren't police," he replied, his eyes glued to a grainy thermal feed of the foyer. 3 figures were moving through the house with military precision. They weren't wearing uniforms, they were in tactical gear, carrying short-barreled crowbars and suppressed sidearms. "Grandmother doesn't just call the authorities when she wants someone gone. She calls cleaners. If they find us, you won't be deported, Maya. You'll just disappear." I sank onto a metal crate, my head in my hands. "It's because of my father, isn't it?" She found the connection. Jae-hoo finally turned, leaning against the cold steel wall. The red light caught the sweat on his brow. "She found out that your father didn't just lose money in Atlanta. He was the lead architect for the vanguards of a money laundering scheme involving a high-level U.S. senator. You were the one who found the second set of books. You're not just a witness, Maya. You're the only person who can put the senator and his Korean investors behind bars." I looked up, stunned. "How do you know all of that? That wasn't on the birth certificate." A heavy silence filled the small room. Jae-hoo looked away, and for the first time since we met in that cafe, he looked guilty. "Because my grandmother was one of those investors," he admitted softly. "The contract I offered you wasn't just to save my reputation, Maya. I knew who you were the moment you applied for that residency. I thought if I kept you close, under the guise of a marriage, I could protect you. And maybe I could use what you know to finally take my grandmother down and clean up Murray Group for good." The air in the panic room suddenly felt thin. I stood up, my eyes wide with a new kind of betrayal. "You used me. You didn't marry me for a visa or a CEO seat. You married me because I'm a walking piece of evidence." "I did it to keep you alive," he snapped, stepping toward me. The space was so small I could feel the heat radiating off him. "In Atlanta, you were a target. In Seoul, as the wife of a park, you were supposed to be untouchable. I didn't count on her finding out so fast." Suddenly, the monitor showing the hallway outside the master's suite flared. One of the men was standing right in front of the closet door. He didn't look for a handle. He pulled a small, brick-like device from his vest and pressed it against the wood. "He's breaching the closet," Jae-hoo whispered, his face inches from mine. "Listen to me. If they get through that door, there's a crawl space behind the ventilation. You take it. It leads to the garage." "What about you?" Jae-hoo reached into a drawer and pulled out a heavy tactical flashlight. His jaw was set. "I'm the distraction. I'm a park. They won't kill me. Not yet." A muffled thump shook the walls of the panic room. The closet door was gone. We could hear the heavy boots walking on the carpet just inches from where we stood. Then, a voice, cold, professional, and speaking perfect English, echoed through the bedroom. "Mrs. Park, we know you're in here. Your father sends his regards. He wants his ledger back." I looked at Jae-hoo, my heart stopping. My father was dead. He died in a car accident 2 years ago if they were using his name. It meant they didn't just want the evidence. They wanted to finish what they started in Atlanta. Jaihu grabbed my shoulders, his eyes boring into mine. Trust me, Maya, just this once. He reached for the door release. Are you enjoying the story? Drop a heart emoji in the comment section. The sound of the closet door being pulverized was a death knell. Through the gap in the panic room's heavy door, I saw the silhouette of a man stepping over the wreckage. He didn't look like a typical thug. He moved with the silence of a predator, his tactical boots barely making a sound on the plush carpet. The ventilation ducked. Jaihu breathed into my ear, his voice so low it was almost a vibration. He pointed to a small, unassuming grate near the floor of the panic room. It's reinforced, but it leads to the maintenance shaft. It exits behind the tool bench in the garage. Take the keys to the vintage black motorcycle. It's the only vehicle not connected to the central GPS. Jaihu, I can't leave you, I whispered, my eyes stinging. They'll kill you if they think you're hiding me. They won't kill their golden goose, he said, a bitter smile flashing in the red light. I am the heir to the Murray throne. I'm leverage. You're a threat. Now move. He didn't give me a choice. He shoved a small, heavy object into my hand, a thumb drive. The ledger. My father made a digital copy before he died. He gave it to me for safekeeping, not knowing my grandmother was the one he was protecting. I spent 10 years trying to decrypt it. You're an architect, Maya. You understand the structure of the data. Find the foundation of the code. A heavy thud hit the steel door of the panic room. The intruders had found the entrance. I scrambled toward the vent, my silk pajamas snagging on the metal as I kicked the grate loose. The crawl space was tight, smelling of dust and cold copper. I looked back one last time. Jaihu was standing in the center of the room, holding the heavy tactical flashlight like a club, his face set in a mask of regal defiance. I'll find you, he mouthed. I slid into the darkness, just as the panic room door groaned under the pressure of a hydraulic ram. The crawl was a nightmare. The shaft was narrow, forcing me to drag my body forward with my elbows. Every few seconds, the house shuddered with the sound of the intruders systematically dismantling the suite above me. I reached the garage exit, my heart hammering against my ribs. I tumbled out onto the cold concrete floor behind a massive workbench. The garage was a cathedral of glass and chrome, housing Jaihu's collection of luxury cars. But I ignored the Lamborghinis and the Bentleys. In the far corner, tucked under a tarp, was the 1970s black cafe racer. I fumbled for the keys in my pocket, my hands shaking so hard I nearly dropped them. The engine roared to life, a deep, guttural growl that felt far too loud in the silent garage. Suddenly, the overhead lights hummed to life. The power was back, but it wasn't a relief. A voice boomed over the garage intercom, a woman's voice, sharp and ancient. Maya, don't be a fool. It was the Dowager, Jaihu's grandmother. You think my grandson is a hero? He didn't save you from Atlanta, she cackled through the speakers. He brought you here to be the bait. He knew I'd come for the ledger. He's using you to lure me into a trap. I froze, my hand on the throttle. I looked at the thumb drive tucked into my waistband. Was she lying? Or was the Ice Prince playing a game much deeper than I could imagine? The garage door began to slide open, revealing 2 black SUVs blocking the driveway, their headlights blinding me. Men with guns stepped out. I didn't think. I kicked the bike into gear, leaned low over the tank, and screamed as I roared straight toward the gap between the vehicles. Like, share, and subscribe to enjoy the next story. The roar of the cafe racer was a physical pulse between my thighs as I tore through the gates of the villa. The wind was a cold blade against my face, whipping the loose ends of my silk pajamas. Behind me, the screech of tires told me the SUVs were in pursuit, their high beams carving through the soul mist like twin searchlights. I didn't head for the main highway. I swung the bike into the narrow, tangled alleys of Idiwan. Here, the city was a labyrinth of neon signs, steep hills, and smelling of grilled meat and rain. I leaned the bike hard into a sharp left, my knee nearly scraping the wet pavement, and vanished into a cluster of food delivery scooters. I pulled over in a shadowed corner behind a trash compactor, killed the engine, and held my breath. 2 seconds later, the black SUVs thundered past the mouth of the alley, their sirens muted but their presence suffocating. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the handlebars. I reached into my waistband and pulled out the thumb drive. Jaihu's words echoed in my mind. Find the foundation of the code. I needed a terminal, not a phone, not a public Wi-Fi, something isolated. I remembered a small PC Bang internet cafe tucked in a basement near the architectural firm where I used to work. It was a relic, used mostly by old-school gamers and people who wanted to disappear. I pushed the bike 3 blocks, not daring to start the engine again, until I found the flickering green sign, the void. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of cheap tobacco and instant ramen. I chose a booth in the farthest corner, shrouded in shadow. I plugged the drive into the battered PC. A prompt appeared, but it wasn't a standard password screen. It was a 3D wireframe of a building, a blueprint. You're a genius, Jaihu, I whispered. The security wasn't a code, it was an architectural puzzle. The password was the load-bearing weight of the structure. I began to move the digital pillars, aligning the stresses exactly as I would for a skyscraper in a seismic zone. As the final beam clicked into place, the screen bled from blue to black. Rows of names, dates, and amounts scrolled past. It was the ledger. But as I scrolled down, a name stopped my heart. Recipient, the Dowager Park Sun Young Source, Atlanta Development Fund status, active. The money hadn't just been laundered. It was currently being used to fund a private security firm, the very men chasing me. But then, I saw the secondary account. Authorized user, Park JHU. My stomach dropped. The Dowager's voice from the garage intercom screamed back into my head. He brought you here to be the bait. If Jaihu had access to the money, was he the one who triggered the incident in Atlanta 10 years ago? Was this marriage just a way to bring the last witness to his doorstep? Suddenly, every screen in the PC Bang flickered. The gamers around me groaned as their characters froze. A single window popped up on my monitor. It was a GPS map of my current location. A red dot was pulsing directly over the cafe. A text box opened below the map. Run. They trace the decryption. It was Jaihu, but was he warning me or tracking me? I ripped the drive out and scrambled for the exit, just as the basement door was kicked open. The blaring sirens were a stark contrast to the quiet hum of the PCs as I burst out of the void. Adrenaline surged through me, the cold night air a shock against my flushed skin. The alley, moments ago a refuge, now felt like a trap. Behind me, heavy footsteps pounded on the concrete, growing louder with each frantic breath I took. I didn't look back. My only thought was the subway. The sheer density of people, the chaotic energy of the underground, would be my best chance to disappear. I sprinted through the labyrinthine streets, the neon signs of Myeongdong a blur of color around me. My silk pajamas, once a symbol of luxurious comfort, now felt like a glaring white target against the dark city. I plunged down the brightly lit stairs of the Myeongdong subway station, the roar of an approaching train, a siren song of hope. The platform was a swirling mass of humanity, a cacophony of announcements and the rumble of the tracks. I pushed my way through the crowd, clutching the thumb drive, my eyes scanning for any sign of my pursuers. Just as the train doors began to slide open, I caught a glimpse of them, 3 figures in black tactical gear, their faces obscured by caps, moving with grim determination down the escalator. They weren't running, but their focused gazes cut through the crowd, searching. I dove into the packed train car, squeezing between 2 businessmen engrossed in their phones. The doors hissed shut, and the train lurched forward. I pressed myself against the condensation-streaked window, watching as the 3 figures reached the platform, their heads snapping left and right. One of them pulled out a small device, scanning the receding train. A wave of relief washed over me, quickly replaced by a fresh surge of panic. They wouldn't give up. The train rattled through the dark tunnels, a fluorescent flicker illuminating the weary faces of the late-night commuters. I tried to calm my breathing, my gaze darting around the car. Everyone seemed oblivious, lost in their own worlds. Except for one person. Across the aisle, a woman sat sketching in a small notebook. She was older, perhaps in her late 50s, with kind, knowing eyes framed by silver hair pulled back in a loose bun. Her clothes were simple but elegant, a charcoal trench coat and a silk scarf. What caught my attention was the way she kept glancing at me, her gaze soft but incredibly observant. As our eyes met, she offered a gentle, almost imperceptible nod. Then she held up her notebook. The drawing was a quick sketch of the train car, but in the foreground, meticulously detailed, was me. In my white pajamas, clutching the thumb drive, my face a mask of fear. Below the sketch, in elegant Hangul, she had written, "You have something they want. Do not trust the one who calls himself protector." My blood ran cold. She knew about Jaihu. She knew about the ledger. Before I could react, the train slowed, pulling into the Chungmuro station. The woman calmly closed her notebook, tucked it into her bag, and stood up. As the doors opened, she paused, looking directly at me. "The old tea house in Insadong," she said, her voice a low, melodic whisper, barely audible above the platform noise. "Tomorrow at dusk, bring what you carry." Then she stepped out onto the platform and disappeared into the stream of exiting passengers. I stared after her, 1,000 questions swirling in my mind. Who was she? How did she know? And could I trust her after everything? The train doors began to close, but not before I saw one of the black-clad figures from the previous station running onto the platform, scanning the cars. My heart leaped into my throat. They had caught up. Like, share, and subscribe to enjoy the next story. I spent the night in a 24-hour Jjimjilbang, hiding my silk pajamas under a discarded oversized hoodie I found in the laundry bin. Every time the heavy doors creaked, I flinched, expecting Jaihu or the Dowager's cleaners to burst through. The ledger, the thumb drive, felt like a hot coal against my skin. By dusk, Insadong was a different world from the neon chaos of Myeongdong. The air smelled of wood smoke and dried tea leaves. The narrow streets were lined with traditional hanoks, their curved tiled roofs silhouetted against a purple sky. I found the tea house the woman had described, the hidden route. It was tucked at the end of a dead-end alley, marked only by a weathered wooden sign and a single dim lantern. The interior was silent, the floor covered in woven mats. Steam rose from a small stone hearth in the center. The silver-haired woman from the subway was there, sitting cross-legged behind a low table. She wasn't sketching today. She was pouring tea. "Sit, Maya," she said without looking up. "The tea is hydrangea. It calms the nerves." I sat, my joints stiff from tension. "Who are you, and how do you know about my father?" She finally looked up, her gaze steady. "My name is Minna. 10 years ago, I was the head of internal audit for Murray Group. I was the one who sent your father those second set of books in Atlanta. I thought he could get them to the U.S. authorities. Instead, I got him killed." A lump formed in my throat. The ghost that had haunted my life for a decade was sitting across from me, pouring tea. "You sent him to his death." "I sent him the truth," Minna corrected softly. "The Dowager didn't just launder money. She used the Atlanta development to funnel funds into a private political lobby that controls half the National Assembly. Your husband, Jaihu, he isn't the villain his grandmother wants you to think he is. But he isn't the hero you want him to be, either." I gripped my teacup. "He has access to the funds. I saw his name on the ledger." "He has access because he's trying to drain them," Minna whispered, leaning in. "He's been bleeding his grandmother dry for years to build a case. But he needed the physical ledger, the one your father hid, to prove the origin of the seed money. Without it, the Dowager can just claim the funds are lost in market fluctuations." Suddenly, the paper screen door at the entrance slid open. My heart plummeted. Jaihu stood there, his black coat dusted with light rain. He looked exhausted, his usual composure fractured. He didn't look at me, he looked at Minna. "You shouldn't have brought her here," Jaihu said, his voice ragged. "The trackers on the ledger are active. They're coming, Minna." "I know," Minna said calmly. "That's why we're leaving." I stood up, backed against the wooden pillar. "I don't know who to trust. You," I pointed at Jaihu, used me as bait. And you, I looked at Minna, started this whole nightmare. Maya, listen to me. Jaihu stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. My grandmother isn't just sending cleaners anymore. She's called in the broker. He doesn't take prisoners. If we don't move in the next 5 minutes, this tea house becomes our tomb. As if on cue, a red laser dot danced across the steam of my teacup. Get down, Jaihu lunged for me. The tea house erupted, not with an explosion, but with the sharp thwip-thwip of suppressed gunfire. The paper screens shredded like confetti. Jaihu tackled me to the floor, his heavy wool coat smelling of rain and expensive cedar. The cellar, Minna hissed. She kicked aside a low table, revealing a trapdoor hidden beneath the floor mats. It leads to the drainage tunnels. Go, I'll buy you time. Minna, no, I started, but Jaihu was already hauling me toward the hole. She's been preparing for this for 10 years, Maya, he growled. Don't let her sacrifice be for nothing. As we dropped into the damp, cold dark of the tunnel, I heard a new voice upstairs. It was low, gravelly, and spoke with a terrifyingly calm cadence. The broker. I didn't wait to hear the rest. We ran, the sound of our splashing boots echoing through the stone ribs of Seoul's underbelly. We emerged 20 minutes later in a construction site near the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. The futuristic silver curves of the building looked like a fallen spaceship in the moonlight. Jaihu led me to a nondescript gray sedan parked behind a stack of steel beams. Give me the drive, he said, holding out his hand. He wasn't looking at me. He was scanning the perimeter, his jaw tight. I pulled the drive from my pocket but didn't hand it over. Minna said you were draining the accounts. She said you needed this to prove the origin. But my father died for this, Jaihu. If I give it to you and you're just another player in the Murray game, he dies all over again. Jaihu turned to me then. The Ice Prince mask was gone. In the harsh light of the construction lamps, he looked human and terrified. If I wanted you dead, I would have left you in the panic room. If I wanted the ledger, I would have taken it while you slept. I need you to understand. I didn't choose this family, but I am choosing how it ends. He reached into his glove box and pulled out a tablet. Look. He opened a file. It was a digital map of the Murray Foundation headquarters, but it wasn't a map, it was a structural analysis. You're an architect, Maya. You saw the foundation in the code. The ledger isn't just a list of names, it's a kill switch. If we upload the decrypted file to the Murray Central server, it triggers a self-audit that the Dowager can't stop. It freezes everyone, every asset, every bribe. It destroys the company, I whispered. It destroys your inheritance. It destroys the monster that killed your father, he said softly. A black SUV drifted into the construction site, its lights off. The broker had found us. We have to go, now, Jaihu said. I looked at the drive, then at the man who had lied to me, saved me, and married me in a whirlwind of secrets. I reached out and pressed the drive into his palm. Don't make me regret this. He squeezed my hand for a split second, then slammed the car into gear. We tore out of the site, the SUV in hot pursuit. We headed straight for the heart of the city, the Murray Tower. As we reached the glass and steel monolith, Jaihu handed me the tablet. I'll hold them off at the lobby. You have the clearance codes in your bridal profile. Get to the server room on the 88th floor. Finish it, Maya. The car screeched to a halt at the grand entrance. I looked at the tower, a structure I had once admired for its design, now a fortress I had to dismantle. See you on the other side, I said. I bolted for the revolving doors as the first shots rang out behind me. Like, share, and subscribe to enjoy the next story.